Welcome everyone to a Legacy of the Valiant card discussion video. In this video, we'll be talking about the two Monarch support cards to come out in Legacy of the Valiant.
The first of which is Mobius, the Mega Monarch himself. He's Water Aqua, similar to his less Mega counterpart, and has the signature 2800, 1000 defense, which also allows him to be searched by the card released in Shadow Specters that specifically targets that attack and defense. Basic overview, its effect is very similar to Grand Mark the Mega Monarch, in that you can tribute it using one tribute summon monster, basically for its previous counterpart. When it is tribute summoned, you can target up to 3 spell and trap cards on the field and destroy all of them. And if it was tribute summoned by tributing a water monster, you can add this additional effect that makes it so the opponent cannot activate the targeted cards in response.
Wait, you can tribute summon this card using one tribute summon monster. But it does that has no play into its effect, really.
Right.
Besides,
I mean, if you tribute summon it using one tribute summoned water monster, then you get its full effect.
yes, but
That's
you don't
a separate
have
thing. You can tribute using any tribute summon monster. You still get the 3 spell and trap card destroyed.
Yeah, so you still get its effect off if you were to tribute just 2 monsters, and one of them, if one of them is water, then your opponent cannot activate the targeted card.
Exactly. So that makes this one kind of perfect for things like Treeborn Frog, because it's actually cooperative with those sorts of cards that are very easily summonable.
Yeah, you have Treeborn Frog, you have all your other froggies that can easily be summoned and special summoned in order to use them for tribute for this card.
It'll probably make this one, honestly, probably a lot more playable than a lot of the other Mega Monarchs, because it gets its full effect using water monsters, which is what most decks that revolve around tributing monsters are for, because they usually use the frogs.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I definitely have been hit by this card's effect before.
So it's basically like Grand Marg. It's just an upgrade to Mobius, because you can use Mobius as the tribute, and it destroys up to 3 spell and trap cards on the field. So, and that's huge, major destruction there.
Yeah, especially with all the back row in this day and age.
Alright, and then we're going to talk about the other card, the trap card, the Monarch's Awaken. Its effect is, if you have no cards in your extra deck, you can target one face-up tribute summon monster you control. Its effects get negated, but it is unaffected by the effects of cards other than this card for as long as it's face-up on the field.
So you can use this when you're attacking with your Monarchs after they've already gotten their effects off to protect them from things like Mirror Force or Fiendish Chain or anything like that,
And
preventing their attacks.
Yeah, especially because the Monarchs, almost all of their effects are triggered when they're summoned, so after they're summoned, they have no use for their effects.
Of course, you can still use this card upon their summoning if your opponent were to, say, Bottomless Trap Hole, but your effect would be negated, so you won't get their, like Mobius Destruction, Spell and Traps, or Caius's Banish a Card effect.
But it will save your monsters, so. And the nice thing is it's not just protection from destruction, it's unaffected by the effects of other cards. So it stops things like Dimensional Prison and other things like Compulsory Evacuation Device, things like that would get rid of your big monsters normally.
Any effects, not just targeting effects, which definitely helps.
It basically means it makes that monster that you summoned pretty much indestructible outside of battle.
Yeah, and it's all effects, it's not just magic or trap effects. All monster effects are also negated.
It literally makes it impossible to get rid of outside of being destroyed by battle.
Which is really nice, especially if you can increase your Monarch's attack somehow, if need be, I guess.
Yeah, and especially because those Mega Monarchs with 2800 attack, they're fairly beastly to get over.
Yeah, I mean, you have those thresholds. You have 2500. Once you get above that, it sort of starts to get difficult.
And then, mainly, obviously the drawback to this card is that you have to have no cards in your extra deck. So you either have to not have an extra deck to begin with, or have a very easily used extra deck. So.
Which is kind of a significant cost, in my opinion. I mean, even in decks such as like a Monarch-based deck, you have your you likely have your tributes, which may or may not be frogs, who can easily be overlaid with each other, and then you have the Monarchs themselves, who are 6 and 8 respectively, and you can overlay those, so it kind of gets rid of some of your options, which I don't know if it's totally worth running this card, but it's definitely a thing to consider, I'd say.
And it's also nice for other things outside of the Monarchs that focus on tribute summoning, like the Steel Swarm archetype, as well as the God cards and the Wicked Gods. Especially, for example, if you throw a Slifer the Sky Dragon out there, which normally doesn't have much protection outside of it gains attack. So if you use this on Slifer, I think that would stop its attack gain, depending on how it's worded. I don't remember off the top of my head. But if you use it on things like Obelisk or the Wicked Dreadroot, which both just inherently have 4,000 attack, you've got a nearly unbeatable monster there.
Yeah, that is very nice. I hadn't even thought of that, actually. I mean, any face-up tribute summon monster, there are some decks that could definitely take that and use it to its advantage.
Basically, it's it's incredible card with a very with a very high cost.
Very high cost, but I would say in a lot of the more tribute summon based decks, you don't
really need it.
You don't really need an extra deck, I would say, but I mean, it's always good to have an extra deck. So you'll have to,
especially with some of the other Monarch sport cards that are coming out, like they release a spell or trap card each time. Like Return of the Monarchs, the one from Shadow Specters, basically it's a continuous spell that says you could not summon monsters from your extra deck, and I believe the trap card that's coming out in Primal Origin also says no card if you have no cards in your extra deck. So if they release more of these cards, then it makes it more worth it to not run cards in your extra deck, just so you can run these incredibly powerful cards.
Yeah, I mean, Unearthing the Monarch also, you can't special summon extra deck monsters from your extra deck, but that's only while that card's on the field. Same with all these cards. So I guess this is really the only card that prevents you from having an extra deck completely, because in order to activate it, you can't have any cards in your extra deck. So unless you're only running a few cards that you use up really quickly, you're probably not going to want to run this card with Monarch specifically, because I mean.
I just checked the one in Primal Origin, and it also says if you activate only if you have no cards in your extra deck, and it's an incredible card. Obviously, we'll talk about it farther down the line, but it is a really amazing card because it's a continuous trap. So.
But I guess that's it for the 2 Monarch cards in this set. Please join us for the rest of Legacy of the Valiant.
Which we're going to fire off pretty quickly here, so because we got to catch up. So, see you on the next one.